What's going on, guys? Eric with Bad Beats here with a deck profile of Mecha Frieza. I got first place with it here at the pre-release. If you don't know what it does, it's a reboot leader. Basically, on the front, you can only play one extra card a turn, but you can reduce the cost of yellow extra cards by taking a life and playing it for free, essentially. And whenever it attacks, you draw one. You awaken, untap one, draw one. And on the backside, you can play as many as you want as long as you have life to spend on it to play extra cards from your hand that cost 2 or less for free, basically. They can only be yellow, though. It's really good. Its other abilities, it can draw one, and then its other one is really important for defense and everything. Anytime you play an extra card, the first time you play it once per turn, you get to tap down one of their extra cards. So it makes Nimbus that much better whenever they have more than one battle card. Alright, so in the deck you have a couple of engines in there. So you have the U9 engine. This is the best card in your deck, hands down. There's times you can have 18 cards in your hand, there's times you can have 10, there's times you can turn 4 cards in your hand into fucking 8 cards, which then builds more and more and more and more. It's pretty insane. The mirror match slug kills this card, and it just makes it so tough. So I'm glad I didn't have to play against any of those, but this card was super good today. And the package I play with it is 3 Basil, 3 Bergamo, and 3 Chappelle. There wasn't one that was really better than the other, except when it comes to these 3. They're really game ender type setup for Selzino, or which we'll get into later, or just to have this extra push. But Chappelle was definitely the MVP of the whole thing, because they swing. They tap down the energy. You get to play Poutine, or you get to trigger Bergamo off of it. It's just really good to force your opponent not to be able to play the game, which is what you want to do. Sadly, paying them boys. The second engine is the Slug engine. So if you don't know what each of these do, the one drop, when you play them, you draw a card, so it cycles itself, and then you can pay 1 energy to either play one of these from your hand, or you can tap down a rest mode. You can rest one of their battle cards. That rarely comes up, but it's still good to know. Angela is really good. It has unique crit. It has crit and bond too. If your opponent has 4 more cards in rest mode, whenever it attacks, they have to choose 2 cards on their board, and that doesn't untap next turn. So when you have something like Chappelle and then Poutine out and BMS, which you'll get to, or this, it just starts accumulating degenerate stoppage of their deck. And then this card is the best one.
Yeah, this card's insane.
This card is nuts. It has barrier, bond too, so this with Poutine they can't remove it off the board unless it's like Demigra or something that negates, gets rid of barrier. If he's in rest mode, your opponent cannot add cards from their deck to their hand using non-leader ability, so they can't search anything, they can't draw for super combos, they can't draw. I played against Ginyu in my last round, and he couldn't meta cooler uptick to discard draw 2, so so he had to just uptick for no reason. This card's absolutely insane. Like I said, if you have these with Chappelle's and BMS or whatever, it really halts decks. So alright, next we have our tap cards. You play 3 Poutine, 3 Ball. You really play 3, so you make sure you see it, because you need to see it turn 1, turn 2, to make sure that you can have bond with your Angela or your Slug, mostly your Slug. And it just stops decks in its track. Giant Balls for the same reason. It cycles itself out. You can take a life to help self-awaken yourself, and then play this for free. And you did all that with no energy. You can Bergamo off of it, whatever. This card's just insane. I would not change those ratios at all. This card was super nuts today. Play 4 Planet Vegeta. There were times where we bumped it down to 2, bumped it down to 3, but 4 has just been nuts. You want to open it turn 1, because turn 1 you have the option of getting any of these targets all the targets I play is 1 BMS. Just certain matchups. A lot of decks have outs to it, but if they don't have the out to it turn 1, I mean, you play this for free with your leader, and then you pay the 1 to turn 1 drop it, so you can just search it at any time when you need it, or you can protect it. This card was the MVP of the whole day, but you can just search it at any time, game ender, because the deck kind of struggles with top end sometimes, and it also helps your numbers at certain points. You can search your 2 draw monkeys to go ahead. If you bricked, you can do this whenever your opponent attacks, so you don't have to. Since you've already taken a life, you can just combo this off next turn, draw monkey, draw 2, or later in the game in grind games, it can help you. And then the last one is two of these super combos. This card is nuts. There's been times where I've just played it for 1, and I played it, and it rests. And so people don't really know when this card is played. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode. So it turns on Bergamo and all different kinds of things. Like, it's just super good. And I've used it for like Stel Zeno just to turn it on with Basil or something like that. Card's super nuts. And then the others, then the super combos I play with that is 2 Zamasu for the same reason, essentially. It's just punishing, because this deck makes it to where like you want to attack with like the stuff that you have on board, because you're kind of afraid of Nimbus, so you think you're going to have those 2, and then you Zamasu tapping their leader down. So it punishes them, and if they do that, then you just Nimbus and you don't worry about the Zamasu, and it just kind of hurts them going down the line. Top end of the deck, when you go to push for games, I play 2 coolers. This card is just super good, and half the time you won't ever need it because these the next 3 cards, they have deflect, but there's so many times where I finished off the game with, you know, like a Basil or a Warcry, and like you got to play through a Dormant, or you got to play through like a Shocking Death Ball or Violent Rage or something like that, and you just no, because you can just like leave your energy up and play it fully responsive and kill them on crackbacks. It's kind of insane. I resolved this a few times today. This card I won every time. This card's insane. If you don't know what it does, it's from the new set. It has deflect, double strike, and blocker. It's just like the balls in Shenron. It cannot be removed from my battle area by your opponent's skills. And then if my leader is yellow when he's played, it KOs all of your opponent's rested battle cards. And then at the end of the turn, he returns back active, so like you can swing with double strike and then have him as a blocker. But his one down here is really good too. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a counterattack skill, you can choose 2 of their cards and put them in rest mode, and they can't be switched to active mode during your opponent's next turn. So if they negate his attack, when he comes out and they have energy up, you just tap them both down, and then you can proceed to kill them for game. And then like I won so many games with this card. Obviously this card's super expensive, and I do recommend that well, the other alternative is Kai, the Supreme Kai that came out, which is also kind of expensive. Hopefully it goes down, but this card was just super insane, because like half the time you're trying to attack their board to outvalue them, and your leader's sitting there swinging, and a lot of decks will get to 4 anyways, and then you just like tap down their board in turn 5 or turn 4. I think the earliest I killed with this deck was turn 3, round 1, game 1 actually. I turned 3 killed with Quad Strike. It's just, this is obviously one of the best cards in the game. Last few cards, I play 1 T-Blow, 1 Cold Bloodlust, 2 Flash, and 3 Nimbus. It is 54 cards. It's just so hard for space. Obviously, you can take like the 2 coolers out and then maybe like something else. But I found every card in this match, in this deck, very pivotal to have. This was insane against Shenron, which I played round 1. This was insane all day, obviously. Cold Bloodlust is like a secret rare. And this is probably the most questionable card, but it's really matchup dependent. So playing 1 doesn't hurt you at all. And if you just need it, you can charge it so you can have extra cards in your hand. But yeah, guys, that was my Mecha Frieza deck. Hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, guys. We'll see y'all later.